Today on the BlackHat Edition of CyberBytes the podcast, I welcome Bud Broomhead, CEO and founder of IoT security firm Viakoo. Bud tells the story of how they set out with one mission before quickly realizing that the Viakoo data and product had a much more impactful use in the security space. I'm Oliver Legg, co-founder of Aspiron Search. Enjoy the show.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome Bud Broomhead, the CEO and founder of Viakoo. How are things?
Terrific. Thank you very much for asking.
Yeah, pleasure.
We've been busy. It's been an interesting journey. Originally started the company focused on in physical security, which is really a fairly substantial part of the IoT attack surface, and said let's get this right, and then we'll spread it, which is what we've done. So cameras and access control and badge readers and power supplies, and then it goes out from there. But what we originally thought was that we would help people from an operational standpoint, keeping their systems up and running and performant, because they weren't achieving their business goals of keeping these systems up and functioning, and they provided a big life safety application, so it was important to them. And so we started to provide automation, and we have a reasoning engine, and we have a lot of things that we do, but first and foremost is we capture a lot of metadata about their environment, not the content so much, but the infrastructure metadata. And this is basically in order to do what we call service assurance, which is performance, uptime kinds of things, and also remediation, which is updating firmware, rotating credentials, provisioning certificates, and managing them. So we kind of call that service assurance and cyber hygiene together. In order to do that, we have this massive discovery capability that really, its entry point is the application, because what we realized is that the IoT device population is not a bunch of independent contributor devices. It is maybe in the consumer market, but in enterprises, there are applications that control the devices. So we said this is an application problem for a special type of application that is software and runs in virtual space, but also is connected to real world devices that need to be maintained and coordinated. If you're going to take an action like change a password on a device, you probably should go back and let the application know what you just did and give them the new secret. So there requires, we call that tightly coupled. So the application is tightly coupled to the devices, and we map all of that, and we harvest all of the attribute data that goes with it, and it's complementary to the partnerships that we've built with the discovery engines, the Armises, Forescouts, Nozomis, Silera, people, folks like that, where not only can we read their discovery list and take action on their devices, but we pick up a different dimension of attribute data that they then read back into their database. And it really is unique to the application and an understanding of what the application behavior is, as well as the device behavior. And we provide that. So we do this application-directed discovery, we do service assurance for uptime, and we do remediation for firmware updating and that kind of thing. So that's the whole suite. It took us, we're a 10-year-old company. We pivoted 5 years ago in 2018, really kind of towards the end of 2018. We pivoted and said, hey, let's go focus on cyber and make sure that that's why we developed all of the remediation part since then and got those products to market. And then the integration with the discovery tools has yielded another vista of partners, and we're a partnering company. So we share that data to our customers through those discovery tools.
Yeah, awesome. And I mean, we we've done a lot of work in the IoT and then the IIoT and the OT space, and it's definitely becoming a lot more crowded. The last like 4 or 5 years, there's been a massive influx in firms focusing on that kind of hardware security. So what is Viakoo doing differently to stand out from some of the firms that you mentioned just now?
So those firms are focused mainly on discovery, right? They'll discover, which is obviously vital. You need to know what you have, you need to know how it's behaving. They also provide a mitigation capability, usually through an interface to like switching gear or whatever, where they can say, oh, there's a particularly egregious device. Let's cut that off from speaking on the network, which is great. It defends the network, right? But it doesn't defend the device. So the device remains, a security risk until you remediate it and change its configuration and implement the security fixes that are for that particular device. That's what we do. And that's how we stand out, is that we're really the remediation pioneer for IoT. And what comes with it, and what is challenging about it, is it's agentless, so we don't put any code on the target, which is in line with what the discovery tools are. Most of them are agentless. And the other thing is that the IoT network topology is not a flat network. It's a kind of patchwork quilt of independent LAN segments, each of which are hidden behind an application server or an application controller where that software application is running, and they have kind of dual networks where they're talking. One network reaches out to the corporate side, and the other network services the devices that are dedicated to that one instance. So you need to be able to navigate that. We call that the last mile of IoT, which is very hard, right? It's like shooting around corners. You have to be able to implement a policy globally, but have it, the action taken locally. And so how do you translate that through this fairly complex network topology and do it in a secure way, so that you're not exposing a man in the middle or anything else along the way? You have to make sure that it's a continuous chain of trust from where you implement the policy to where the action is actually taken locally. And you want the action to be local for a bunch of reasons, the least of which is not latency. So if you're going to pass a firmware file to a device, you want to make sure that it doesn't time out while it waits for that file to arrive, right? So you want to make sure that whatever action you're taking is initiated locally. And so that whole architecture that delivers on the last mile is what makes that happen. And it puts us in a position to capture the asset data attributes, performance attributes, application attributes, device attributes. It allows us to collect them, but also from that same position, we can take action. So we have actors that take action on the devices, and as I said, they interface to those devices, those sensors, but they don't load code on them. They just integrate with its natural interface, whatever that might be. And we support a whole bunch of different strategies on how to talk to devices, because implementations are quite varied.
Yeah, good stuff. And kind of rewinding a decade now, where did the whole idea of Viakoo come from, and what was your journey up until that point?
When we first looked at IoT, it was just this mound of devices, huge pile of devices from different manufacturers we'd never heard of, different devices we didn't understand what their purpose was. It was kind of try to figure out how we could apply cloud-based technology to help these people manage their environments better. And so coming up with a heterogeneous universal capability that would work across many IoT applications and devices was paramount. So that's what we focused on building our code. And then as we encounter a new app and a new family, if you will, of devices, we write an adapter, which we can write faster than somebody can cut a PO. We write an adapter and then we add it to our library, and now all the rest of our code works with it. So we're kind of a library driven, and because we're a SaaS implementation, once we've got an adapter written, all of our customers get it, and all of our future customers get it. So we're constantly expanding the coverage, one customer at a time. And thankfully, there's no one customer who has everything. There's always a finite number. So once we establish what the coverage is, what the gap is, then we fill the gap.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go back and re-engineer for them. We just build a new adapter and move on. So.
Yeah, no, good stuff. And in terms of kind of the 10 years up until this point, and now being in startup city at BlackHat, what's changed the last couple of years that's kind of made you want to now kind of really ramp up and be seen at because you can only be in startup city for 2 years?
Yeah.
Is this your first year?
No, it's not our first year. So. We've got the exposure, and part of our customers are helping us ramp up. So we have major customers, $1 million ARR customers now. So it's driving revenue, it's driving demand. It's in customer success and front end and sales systems engineering and in pure engineering to broaden our libraries and build more features and respond to customer requests. The other aspect to it, part of why now, is the market, and the market has broadly become aware that IoT attack surface is something that they need to deal with. Of course, the initial reaction is, how much of this stuff do we have? Where is it? And so discovery is the initial period. And what we do is we're not a mile wide and an inch deep, right? We're an inch wide and a mile deep because we map these applications and all of their devices into a structure that gives us performance data, configuration data. We can track drift. We can do all sorts of things by doing that. So that's why we're a natural pairing with the discovery folks. And they've enjoyed just tremendous growth in the last few years, and we're now coming along with it. So that's part of what's fueled us. And as I said, we started the company in 2013. We pivoted in 2018 to move in on this market, and just in the last, I would say, year or so, the thing is that people are broadly becoming aware of the issue and that they need to do something about it. We're part of the solution. Big problem, big solution.
Yeah, no, awesome. And I mean, you've touched on a fair amount of it there, but what should people be excited about, and why should kind of top talent be looking and keeping an eye on Viakoo when you're ready to hire?
Great question. First, there's money to be made on the sales side. There's no doubt about that. And we're adding channels. We have major channel partners. We're adding more, and it took a little while to ramp up and build the skill set, and they're starting to yield. So that's very encouraging, and that portends to growth. So it's a high growth. We'll grow over 100% this year. Despite the economy. We're getting the traction. So that's part of why. And the other is we're plowing new ground. We are this application directed discovery is a pioneer thing. Nobody else does it. It's really coming through the application layer is unique, and it's opened up a lot of opportunities with us for AI, and we have an AI program, and we're beefing up our reasoning engine that's been there and functions and all that, and we're making it smarter. And so we have the components there, we have the go-to-market channel, and we now have customer pull. and the customers are getting more sophisticated. That's the other piece to it, right? They've learned a lot, and they've taught us a lot, and we've responded, and it's now sort of a reciprocating engine, if you will, and the more they teach us, the more we build, and the more they like it. So, that's the path we're going down.
Yeah. Wow. We're looking forward to seeing what you can do in H2 of this year.
Yeah.
2024 and beyond, Bud.
Well,
so
appreciate it.
We'll have our eye on Viakoo and what you can do.
Yeah, excellent.
Been an absolute pleasure to do this live at BlackHat. So thanks so much.
Terrific.
For coming on.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We hope you've enjoyed this latest episode of CyberBytes, the podcast. Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and tell your friends. If you want to explore being a guest or how Aspiron Search can help you build high-performing security and go-to-market teams, then get in touch on LinkedIn or info@aspironsearch.com.